Really, I love you, but I can't fucking stomach you.
I'm the youngest boy!
Is he in there? Get him out.
Welcome to Suc10. And around here, we usually break down new episodes of Succession in roughly 10 minutes. But we're fresh out of new episodes, so...
I mean, we have options.
Sure, you could all ask for morphine, so you can stay in your painless fucking fantasy world where the orchids dance and the company is run by a magical fucking unicorn.
I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth, owner of a ludicrously capacious bag. I mean, how else can I carry all this money around? I'm here with Magnum Mills to give our overall thoughts on Succession as a series. Mills, sadly it's over. We're never going to get another episode. Well, should never say never, but we're probably not going to get another episode. But you'll be happy with what we got, right?
Woof, woof. Shout out Hugo. I am Magnum Mills. This is Suc10. Find us wherever you get your pods on YouTube. Search for Suc10. That's SUC, the number 1, the number 0. Presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff again, wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. And please don't forget the flaps. Even a drunk pilot remembers that. Follow, like, and please subscribe. Helps people find our show. We appreciate it. If you had fun, you enjoyed yourself, just click that thumb. Helps us. Makes you feel good about yourself. You help somebody out. We really appreciate it. Please and thank you.
We do have to let you know that this is 100% a full-on spoiler show. Literally every single thing about Succession is up for discussion here. Seriously, every single thing. Even that Disgusting Brothers fan fiction that you pretend that you haven't read and spent hours Googling. It is all in play. This is your first and final warning.
Yeah, man. You let people Google themselves. That's what you do in your privacy of your own home is fine. I mean, it's like Charlie Kelly after he broke the Boggs record, right? It's like,
What do now?
Well, we Google ourselves, but then shortly thereafter, we schedule our grief. However, let's rewind back to the pilot episode and take it from there. Do you guys remember what your overall thoughts were about the pilot when you first saw it, Mills? What about you?
I remember it. I've seen it a few times now, most recently, probably right before season 4 started. And I just remember like, wow, these people are assholes. That was my main takeaway is this is fun, but where does it go from here? And I mean, it gives you the great ending, right, of Logan having the stroke in the helicopter or whatever like that. It kind of really sets you up for like, all right, here it comes. And I think when I first saw it, it wasn't when it came out. It was probably maybe when season 2 was going on or something like that. And I tried to get into it. And it was a good pilot. I think the pilot is probably the strongest of the first part of season 1 there for the most part. Definitely got me hooked, but it wasn't like a Game of Thrones level pilot, you know what I mean? Or Lost or something like that, where you just watch it and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It wasn't quite, like that, but it was worth a Google.
I would agree with kind of, it wasn't in the echelon of, those bigs that you mentioned, but I just remember Ken like getting hyped up in the morning, little East Coast New York rap, doing a little box in the back
of the car, right? He was in the car, right? Was that?
Yes, like that was just such a great scene as he's like getting hyped up, and really, you gotta hand it to Jeremy Strong, man. The dude brought it all the way through from episode 1 all the way to the final episode. I remember that, but then you also remember, wow, these people are just terrible human beings. But I think there was enough intrigue there for me to be excited about episode 2 and be excited about what this show might come of it. And I remember also being surprised that Logan went down. I didn't necessarily see it coming. Looking back, maybe it's a little more obvious or a little bit more like, yeah, they probably needed to do that, wanted to do it. It opened it up to start the Succession thing right off the bat. But they had already kind of started the Succession thing because if you remember, that was supposed to be Ken's day. Ken was supposed to be announced as the next guy. So it was already kind of in motion. That just was the first curveball of what ends up being, hundreds of curveballs. But it surprised me and kind of took me back just a little bit when it happened, when Logan goes through that. But, I think that there was enough there to call this definitely a successful pilot.
And I think it would be remiss if we didn't mention that Cousin Greg was a fairly big part of the pilot. And he was basically our entry point as kind of the regular dude, quote unquote, going into this world. What did he like get high in his mascot costume and puked or whatever? So then he's got to go to beg for a job. And that's and then he starts ping ponging around between everybody. And it was interesting because while he was definitely still rich and stuff, he was definitely closer to us than any of these people are. So that was kind of a way, again, a good entry point into the world. Let's just kind of move into season 1 in general. When you think about it, excluding maybe the pilot and the finale, we'll get to that. What jumps out at you? I explicitly remember when when Kendall was going to give the big speech or whatever, and then Logan found out, so then he went and gave the speech himself and kind of fucked Kendall over. When I say season 1, other than the season finale, kind of what do you think of?
Well, for season 1, definitely when that episode, I think it might be episode 6, where Kendall is attempting to get a no, basically a coup and cast a no vote on the board, and he can't get to the board meeting. There's all the crazy traffic, and he like gets out of the car and runs down the tunnel, and he's trying to get there. And it's a 40-minute elevator ride. Like it just, I love the suspense and stuff there. And he ended up missing one of his windows to really, like, he had it. Had he been able to get there, I think he could have maybe actually pulled that off. And that was kind of cool. But they just did such a great job of building that tension throughout the episode as he was trying to get there, and in the end he couldn't. So that one definitely
great call, because I remember the boardroom side of the scene, but I had forgotten about Kendall being stuck, and it's all happening over the phone. And that's Roman was supposed to be on his side. And then Logan basically strong arms him, and had he been there to maybe protect Roman, you're right, maybe Roman would have gone the other way. And that episode is an interesting parallel to the series finale when we get that other board meeting, and now it is Kendall strong arming Roman to be on his side, even though he didn't look like he really wanted to be. And then, Shiv's the one kind of in the Logan role this time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It really came back full circle on that one. Yeah, and he's, Ken's losing cell phone service. Like really good episode, man. So that definitely stands out.
And Stewie was your boy, right? And he was with K-Dog on this. Like, is Stewie your boy? Am I remembering that right? So any thoughts on him here?
I did like Stewie at the beginning, and he was with K-Dog, and they kind of had this plan, right, to get a no confidence vote against Logan. And I think it would have worked. He had Frank. Anytime you got Frank on your side, you got a chance. He had Frank here, man.
Frank knows which ways the wind is blowing. He's an old head like that. He's got to figure it out. The other thing that I definitely remember is like when Kendall just goes off the wagon down in Mexico or whatever, and just he start doing meth, right? Did he smoke crack? Maybe even like he just starts doing all the drugs.
This is kind of an experiment. There we go.
Like, this is the dude who, when he doesn't just smoke a joint and have a little whiskey or something. I mean, he just went full in. It's always fun to see him because he thinks he is like a regular person, kind of. And the way he interacts with regular people, it's like, he's an actor playing a guy who's acting like he's one of these regular people, and it's always just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, it definitely is. Obviously we get Shiv's political stuff. I think that was really cool, with her heading down to DC, and then of course her affair with Nate. Not anything groundbreaking there, but I think it started to lay the groundwork for some of the way that this family can control politics to a large degree, or influence politics to a large degree. So I think that was kind of cool and kind of early foreshadowing there.
There's two kind of big runners that go almost throughout the series, or at least for a while from here. The first one is the cruises scandal. That's more of a back burner thing here. We hear about it, but nothing kind of really happens. It's all machinations with Greg was supposed to destroy the papers, right? And he copied them. And then he tells Tom. And so there's kind of a little bit of seeding here, really. It's not like a plot line that matures in this season. And the other one is the big one, and that's the death of Andrew Dodds. That's the waiter at the wedding Kendall goes with to try to get Coke or whatever, and they put the car in the drink, and dude drowns. And then that's how Logan gets Kendall to back down, basically, is by covering that up for him. And you get that great scene, the "you're my number one boy" when he hugs him or whatever. And thoughts on that not really being as big of a deal as it seemed like it was going to be. I think a lot of people were waiting for the death of Dodds to come back up in the finale, and while Shiv mentions it, it's really like an afterthought. I don't think it was why she did things, one or the other. I mean, it's kind of weird that he denies the confession then at that point, but I don't know. Did you think something more was going to come of this, or did you like how it was handled ultimately?
I think it was okay. I mean, they used it they let it run its course. Logan used it as kind of a way to control Ken and also ultimately get Ken to take the blame. And that's what pushed him over the edge. Up until that point where he basically asked Ken to take the fall for him and go to jail, up until that point, from this moment of Dodd's death to then, Ken was in complete, whatever his dad said, he did. I mean, he was basically a dog. And
yeah, like when they pull him right out of rehab after like 48 hours, right at the beginning of season 2. Like, nope,
yep,
Logan needs you.
It worked enough. I always thought it would be something more than what it was. But I think they let it run its course to where I think it was pretty effective, basically as a tool for Ken to fall in line.
Yeah, I think that all tracks. Anything else you can think of from season 1 before we move on to season 2?
Just the fact that I remember being really excited about season 2, and just, again, right off the bat here in season 1, we saw some great writing, great dialogue, a bunch of hilarious quotes, and you realize that this show has a comedic element to it that it's not billed as a comedy, but it is funny. And I think they did a good job in that in all seasons, but season 1, definitely.
The irony of it all, by the end, it was like Succession and Barry switched poles almost. Whereas Succession was closer to a comedy and Barry was closer to a drama, probably, even though they were billed as opposites. And don't get me wrong, Barry had his funny moments still in Succession, obviously still some crazy shit, but the humor was always there. And I think it really helped, especially to sell this idea of like, this is the worst of first world problems, right? The worst thing that's going to happen to most of these people is they're going to wind up with hundreds of millions instead of billions of dollars. There's, don't cry for me, Argentina, or whatever. It's not really relatable to a normal human, but that's why I think it's so good that they at least treated each other so terribly it made it entertaining.
Yes, and they had just some great zingers and one-liners, and yeah, I mean that was apparent in season 1, and they carried it all the way through. Let's move on to season 2. What jumps out at you, Mills, worthy of discussion here as we head over to season 2?
Let's save the finale there for the kind of the end of the season 2 discussion a little bit. It's also towards the end of the season, but everybody having to testify is one of the things that jumps out at me. And also, I think the premiere we mentioned already with, Logan pulling Kendall out of rehab basically after not even 2 days. So I did think it was a season that, ended very strongly, started very strongly, maybe a little bit slack in the middle, but they had a lot of momentum coming out of season 1. I think they carried most of it. You're right. Kendall's like sleepwalking through the first few episodes, and Logan's putting him in his place. Like, remember when he makes him shut down Volter? Yeah, that was his baby, right? That was like his thing, and he's got to go in and personally tell the employees. And the way he just reads that statement and everything, he is broken, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole season broken, more or less.
He is, and you start to see that control and that psychological abuse that this family leans on. And it's learned behavior, and they all do it. Another interesting thing here, and obviously this plays into how the show ultimately ends, is we see Tom, right? Tom, aspiring for the top spot. We see that he wants it. We see
no one took him seriously either. That is kind of funny. And most of the people, Carl gets like his best. I forget if it's in 4 or season 4 or season 2, but Carl, I think it's in season 4. But it just, no one has any respect. When everyone's like sitting in the old heads are talking about who's going to throw their hat in, and Tom kind of like, well, maybe I could. And everyone's like, you.
The negative case would go, you're a clumsy interloper and no one trusts you. The only guy pulling for you is dead, and now you're just married to the ex-boss's daughter, and she doesn't even like you, and you are fair and squarely fucked.
So there's a little bit of irony, but here you do see like how just ambitious he really is.
Even Shiv was just like, because I think he makes a comment like, well, it could be me.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, obviously that's where it goes, but no one, and I kind of like that. Looking back, I kind of like that they made him, you never even thought it could be him, and then it ends up being him. And basically seasons 1, 2, and 3, you had no real thought of it being Tom Wamgams, but then it does. We also see Logan's attempt to buy Pierce here, the first attempt, and that's a pretty big runner that ran for multiple episodes, including into season 4, where they come back around with the merger. So where they try to buy again, the kids do. So I think that was pretty big storyline there.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts on that one, right? Because you have the whole thing with Naomi And
Yes.
her and Kendall, or they have a thing, and then you got the lawyer, I forget her name, played by Holly Hunter, and she basically like backstabs the Pierces, right? And I think she starts sleeping with Logan at one point.
Yeah,
So there's
she does.
a lot of shit going on there, and that's when
And that's what caused Marcia to disappear. Like Marcia freaks out. We don't see Marcia for basically until Logan's death. You know,
yeah,
I
she
mean,
ghosts almost for that's I think even she's just a credit only for the most of the rest of season 2 after that.
and most of 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that was the end of her being a regular. I think she was just probably a special guest or a guest star in season 3 and 4. One of the conditions for the sale, right, was that Shiv was going to be named CEO, and Logan told her in private, it's going to be you, but you got to do all this 3 years of prep and all this shit or whatever. But then he never backs her publicly, and I think that definitely impacted the way Shiv dealt with things going forward, and quite possibly even her decision to stab Kendall in the back at the end, because her dad did it to her. I mean, that's if she's really trying to say what would Logan do, probably stab Kendall in the back.
Mills, you're the mathematician of the show, so I'll let you do the math on this, but we do get Connor. We get Connor beginning his presidential campaign. Mills, what does that equate to in money spent for his 1%?
I believe he spent $100 million per percent, so just the 1%, and so he paid $100 million to be an ambassador to Slovenia, I think, while his wife stays home. I don't know about that one, man. There might be some buyer's remorse. He probably does have like a solid 10,000 followers on Twitter or something. That
He's got the con heads. He's got the con heads.
There's legitimately 2,000, maybe, probably 80% bots, 20% actual con heads. So, he's got 2,000 people. So yeah, it is what it is. It's a little bit of money, 50,000 per person or what have you, but
yeah, and there's the mathematician. Mills, on top of that, we also get Roman and Jerry. We see they're strange, but I don't know if intriguing is the right word. Let's just call it weird kind of relationship. It's I never really understood it. It's kind of like this weird, I don't even know what Pornhub would classify this relationship as, but it definitely was interesting and at times downright hilarious. And we also see that becoming a thing in season 3 and season 4. It gets brought up, obviously, when the dick pics come to light with Roman, and then obviously his continuous kind of egging on Jerry, and then ultimately his firing her, and then her suing the company. So that's kind of a big deal.
I think you really covered everything that happens, because you are right. I never really understood it. I can see where Jerry maybe played along a little bit, even if A, a little bit intrigued, maybe B, like she knew down the road this was going to probably work out in her favor. No idea what Rome got out of it. And I think this is maybe where, they tried to keep his sexuality and his whole deal kind of ambiguous. And I think in this case, it hurt him a little bit, because it was just so weird that it maybe, it bordered over to creepy more than funny sometimes. And that just didn't totally work for me, really.
Well, I mean, he did his best in his Roman way to kind of make it funny, taking something absolutely weird, not appropriate at all, and make it funny. That's kind of what Roman does. But yeah, it was an odd one. We talked about it in season 1, but obviously the cruise scandal continues. You mentioned it earlier, but dude, the Congress scene with the testifying, that was one scene that when I realized the reach the show has inside its own universe is huge. The fact that we've got a Congress testifying scene is awesome. And then that kind of gives you a hint at where, maybe they could go on election night, right? And we see it eventually in season 4. So I thought that was really cool. And it was hilarious because, I don't know, man, how would you describe Tom's performance?
I believe Charles Barkley said it best. Terrible. Yeah, dude, he bombed. Everyone was pretty bad. Cousin Greg tried to talk all weird so he wouldn't get himself in trouble. Kendall was, I don't remember anybody really particularly performing well there, but it didn't really matter. You got the idea that all they had to do was basically not admit to it under oath. Just don't say you ordered the code red, basically. That was all they had to do, I think. And so, bare minimum. We didn't mention it before, but we talked about Greg here. We did see him start to form that bond with Tom in this season. It's kind of the origin of the Disgusting Brothers. If way back in season 2 you had said, all right, someone on the show is going to be the Disgusting Brothers, how shocked are you that Roman isn't one of them?
Yeah, Roman defines Disgusting Brother, so that was kind of interesting how they chose that. But it worked so well with Greg and Tom though too. So it's kind you could, I guess it could be like a disgusting brothers or something, but
Yeah, we'll save it for the animated spin-off for the Disgusting Brothers.
yeah,
like that
disgusting
one.
trio.
Yeah, and get Roman in on it. He's why not bring him in? I guess we have to talk about the finale. They keep wanting to pick a
Well, before we do
scapegoat.
though, before we do, I just wanted to mention, I know we talked about, Ken's kind of brokenness, and it's never fun to see somebody who's clearly hurting, abuse drugs, but that did lead to some interesting things and some funny shit as he continues his drug use throughout this season. And it kind of also added to just how just the overall depth of this character. And so I did appreciate that. And then ultimately we kind of get the curveball at the end where I'll let you take it with that final episode.
All the time, they're searching for who's going to be the scapegoat or whatever, and more or less Logan sets it up. He's all right, Kendall's going to be the guy. And then you get that final scene when big conference, he's supposed to fucking do it, and nope, he fucking...
The truth is that my father is a malignant presence, a bully and a liar, and he was fully personally aware of these events for many years and made efforts to hide and cover up. My father keeps a watchful eye over every inch of his whole empire, and the notion that he would have allowed millions of dollars in settlements and compensation to be paid without his explicit approval is utterly fanciful.
Logan told him, you're not a killer. That's why didn't give you the job. You're not a killer. So he finally does the kill thing. And I think the season just about ends, and Logan, he does that little thing you can't, it was just almost a glint in his eye and just a little twitch of a smile that he's obviously fucking pissed. But on some hand, this is maybe one of the first times he's actually respecting him for doing what he would have done. And that keeps coming up, especially after Logan passes. What would Logan have done? They might as well bought the damn bracelets or whatever.
Yeah.
The answer is usually kill.
WWLD. WWALD. And dude, we can't not say it, but that was a crazy ending, especially considering we ended up waiting 2 years basically to find out what happens next. So just the way it played out with COVID and whatnot, that was kind of a crazy thing. That brings us to season 3. Thrice. Real name, no gimmicks. I'm not gonna lie here. One of the most vivid memories I have of season 3 was how long it took to arrive. As I just mentioned, almost 2 years, dude. That was brutal.
And especially interesting because the episode picks up immediately where season 2 ended.
Yes.
Sometimes there's usually a little bit of a time jump. Nope, that began the point where Succession just basically slowed down the clock as far as how much time they were going to cover as far as the show. I mean, the final season, takes 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, when this started. I don't know, man. Season 3, again, very good premiere, outstanding fucking finale. Where do you want to start?
It's just excellent. They're really hitting here. I guess let's start at the top. We get Jerry as kind of the interim CEO, and this kind of put her on a new level for me in terms of importance of character and also within the game. For the first time, I felt like maybe she had a legitimate chance of kind of being a player here, right? And I think that was kind of important to the overall intrigue of how will this thing shake down, because they did such a good job building who's gonna win, right? And this kind of put Jerry in the conversation of maybe she could win.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, was Frank still out at this? No, season 3. By the beginning of season 3, he's back in, right? So
I think he is, yeah.
It's always tough to Frank and Jerry just keep coming and going. It's almost like they should have been Tom and Jerry.
Oh gosh, we get a big war with Shiv and Kendall. Obviously he ruins her speech with the rape me scene. That's something I'll always remember. As that
is one of my highlights of the show still.
Yes. What's so great about it, and again, incredible writing. She's on stage to talk about the sexual assault in the workplace and standing up for it, and he just crushes with the rape me thing.
What do you have his assistants all holding up Bluetooth speakers or whatever the hell it was? I forget.
Yeah, he tried to get into the intercom, couldn't, so then he just gets big ass speakers and they're just holding them up, dude. Great Nirvana tune there, and yeah, it's very fitting. But then we also see from that, we see this battle, right? And honestly, it was the foreshadowing, because Shiv gets the last punch, obviously in the series finale, as she doesn't allow Kendall to win.
But even there, she counter punches because remember, Kendall's going to go on that show where they're always making fun of him. And this is him thinking he's like real cool and relatable, right? He's going to go on the show and wow people. And then Shiv releases that letter, just basically just putting all his secrets out there. And he's just like, again, it looked like he was starting to come back up a little bit. He was excited for this. And that just is like, oh shit.
That was a punch to the gut for sure.
I loved both of those. I thought that was great. The other thing I really remember for this season is that episode where basically after, well, first you have the whole ATN thing where Logan gets pissed at the White House. So he tells them to have the negative coverage. So then the president's like, well, fuck it. Now I'm not even going to run again. Then they get the episode where they more or less get to pick the presidential candidate. I think that was set up well by the DC episode in season 2. They go down there. I think it's season 3, episode 6. And just in a room, right? And they're basically picking the president. And it's just wild. Like even at times, some of them, all the kids kind of comment like, wow, this is kind of nuts, right? Like, and that's where Roman kind of, becomes boys with Mencken.
I like that they slow rolled us a little bit into just how much political shit would be involved in the show, which I think was cool because they didn't overwhelm it and didn't make it a political show or a political satire. They slow rolled us a little bit with Shiv and her DC connections and Nate, and then you realizing the power of Logan being able to control the narrative and broker, getting some heat off him with the president. So I like how they did it like that. And you just see like the control and the influence, I think is the word I used earlier. That's really spot on that they had when it came to politics in this country. So, and it reminds you of maybe, other major news, not too far off from maybe the way news, some certain news shit works in our country today. So I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, certain personalities and networks have their own political gravity, I guess you'd call it. One thing that I didn't love from the season is it finally wraps up towards the end with the whole Cruises scandal. You have the thing where Tom's like, all right, I'm going to step up. And he tells Logan, all right, I'll be the fall guy. And then he spends the whole season bitching about his decision only to get bailed out in the end. And that, I think, hurt Tom's character a bit. At least maybe they wanted to take him lower to make him the CEO. But he really, I don't want to call him bitch boy, but it was bad for a lot of this season. He chose to do that and then spent the entire season complaining about it. It's like somebody volunteers to volunteer to do something and then complain the whole time you're doing it. It kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I totally agree. It almost became like a funny runner. Like, all right, Tom's going to think of some ridiculous shit to say about like prison life. And you got used to it a little bit, but he did basically spend that the entire time. Mills, we do get the introduction of Lucas Matson, right? So Waystar wants to buy Gojo. We see that. And obviously that runs its course all the way through till the final episode of the series.
One thing I guess we should mention is the fact that Tom does this and he offers to be a martyr. I think he thought it was going to help him with Shiv, but it hurts him, right? It seems like she loses respect for him, first for offering to be a martyr, and then secondly for complaining about it the whole time. So I think that was definitely another, roadblock or even just another, destruction point in the relationship.
If she wasn't 100% sure, could she allow herself to want something just because Tom wants it? I don't think so, right? That's like, she always has to kind of be winning. That's like a Roy thing. So yeah, remember that weird scene where she like told him that she didn't love him and then like she tried to play it off as like some weird like foreplay thing?
Yeah, no,
like,
I was just playing a character. That was some... Because that was like really like she was just straight out like that was some.
Yeah, dude, she went for the jugular, bro, and then it was crazy.
And I think that again sets the scene for ultimately how their relationship will play out in season 4. And then you had the bit obviously where Shiv's just kind of rebelling, especially when she's pissed off at Logan backstabbing her. And so when Caroline tells her not to have kids, like, and she didn't want to have kids, always a great thing for mom to, tell the kids. So then Shiv tells Tom she wants to have children, not because she wants to have children because she wants them, but just basically to spite her parents, which is not a good reason to have children. And then you see in season 4, Tom tells her, I don't think you'd be a good parent. So they kind of brought that around full circle quite nicely.
Yeah, a lot of people forget Logan offered Kendall a $2 billion buyout.
That was his birthday present, right? Let's talk about the birthday party, dude. Yeah, because he gets...
So I was a huge fan of Ken Dog's birthday party. This is what I was like, I'm falling in love with Ken hard here. Dude, when they had
the baby Wu-Tang people or whatever? Was that a
yes,
thing?
dude. But they had to walk through like the fallopian tube thing, and it was so funny with Roman, dude, as they entered into this party, and he had like his tree up in the top, and no one was allowed in. Just absolutely ridiculous, dude. So absurd with Ken. He had the coat, he was going to do the whole rap thing, like just absolutely ridiculous. But it worked. It was so funny. Those are my takeaways, man. And obviously delivering the buyout, the birthday present.
We meet Madsen at that party. That's huge. And
Yes.
again, it's kind of Roman, right? Like I think Roman gets in with him a little bit. Don't they have a little meeting? Because then they trash. Roman pisses on the phone, right? Don't they open like the ATM or the streaming app or whatever, and like he literally pisses on it or something like that?
He throws it in the urinal and pisses on it. Another random thing about the party that I'm just remembering is it was this really weird scene where like Naomi like tries to give Ken this gift and make it really special, and it's a watch, and he totally weirds out and he hates it, and he doesn't hide it at all. It was like the weirdest kind of thing. Like, I don't know.
That's so Kendall, because then he weirds out because he can't find the gift from his daughter, right? Or gift from his kids, and then he just weirds the fuck out, and then he has to go home, I think, right? He doesn't even like stay for the whole party.
Right, cancels his whole rap thing. Remember, he was going to come down on the thing.
Doing like some Method Man and Red Man.
Yes.
So that pretty much sets up the finale, because then he starts spiraling, right? And then he almost dies in the pool. You know, the kids come together for the first time, and he tells them about the waiter, Dodds, and all that. And then they actually try to outsmart Logan, but Tom shivs him, right? Tom tells Logan what they're going to do to go to, and then he goes back to Caroline and like changes the divorce agreement, right? So again, Tom kind of, making another move. The more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking like, man, we should have been, not so surprised when it was Tom, maybe.
Exactly, because going back and looking at it, like, yeah, he played the game pretty damn well, man, all things considered here. And at the time, you just kind of, I don't know how there was just kind of like this blankness over him where you just didn't think it would be him. And I guess the show, you got to give him credit. They did a great job on that, right? They didn't make it obvious, but looking back, it's like, yeah, he positioned himself pretty well. We've already talked a lot about season 4 recently, right here on Suc10, but let's see if we can tie this thing all together, Mills.
Like a rug, like a nice rug, kind of bring it all together. I mean,
really tied it together.
That's pretty much what we've been doing. Let's just go through the callbacks here again. You saw early in the season, I think that's maybe what we were hyped about coming out of 3. It's like, all right, now we're going to get the team up for the kids. We've never seen them really actually work together, and we got that at the beginning of season 3. Despite the 100 or whatever being like the worst fucking pitch I've ever heard. I like the whole bit with Pierce. And that's what I kind of wonder. That's a hanging Chad, right? Theoretically, they're still supposed to buy Pierce when the series is over together, aren't they?
Yes.
Don't they have probably a binding agreement that they're supposed to buy that together? I'd love to know how
$10 billion.
I'd love to know how that's going to fucking work out.
I guess that could be the sequel.
Actually, it worked out, right? Because they overbid, but then they got Madsen to overbid. So they actually, I think, wound up with the dough to do it.
Hey, I'm a firm believer in the philosophy of a ruling class, especially since I rule.
And I was just going to address basically the dead elephant in the room. Logan dies in 3. We get that great meeting at the end of 2 where it's also a nice scene where the kids all take Connor out for a drink or whatever the night before his wedding, and they go to, like, Connor wants to go to a bar where people have blood in their hair or whatever the fuck it was. It's very weird description of the bar you want to go to. Then they go upstairs and Logan meets him, and you get that great final, like, you are not serious people. He loves them, but they're not serious.
But they're not serious people. I'm okay with it. And honestly, I don't think I can handle just kind of one scene with him. I want to look at like the last couple, like that scene in the diner with Colin, I think was really an important piece to kind of Logan's last run, if you will. The last of Logan. I just think that phonetically works, but it's like that whole thing, like that was important. And then him kind of wandering around the park like that, as he just kind of walked and like those kind of things, I think were the good final moments for me to be okay with Logan dying the way he died.
I just love that they were kind of the best pals in the end, but you get the idea they were best pals in like 1950s way, where your best pal meant like you would go on a fishing trip together, you'd sit on a boat next to each other and speak like 10 words to each other over 5 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're kind of just old school, like you're friends, but that doesn't mean we talk. It just means we're in near proximity a fair amount.
Right. Right. We do things together, but we don't really talk.
Colin was your boy too. I think
Colin.
we'll address the characters a little bit, but I didn't remember him being that prominent in the first, in the first couple of seasons. Really, I knew he was kind of around, but I don't remember really talking very much or anything, or Logan addressing him that often.
He was just kind of muscle. He just kind of seemed like muscle for Logan, but apparently he was in more, more episodes than we realized.
Yeah, I mean, hey, being in the background counts.
Let's move on to Shiv, because I got to ask you a question. If she wasn't pregnant in real life, do you think they would have still made her pregnant in the show? Did it do enough?
Looking back on it with the, her mom telling her not to have, and then her telling Tom she wanted to. Yes, I think thematically that makes sense, especially as a through line. These kids have all these parents issues. It made sense that one of them would have a kid because none of the others. Oh, I guess Kendall does. I forget, but we don't associate him with much. But it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I think it paid off. I think Shiv being pregnant added enough to this season, enough suspense, enough backstory, enough shit with her and Tom, and it also just maybe influenced her decision at the end. That's so that's kind of, and several decisions she made throughout the entire season, right? As she was kind of playing both sides of the fence with Mattson and Roman and Ken. So I think it paid off, her being pregnant.
Keep going on what you just said. What do you think about the ultimate decision for her to work against Kendall and Roman? Do you think it was justified, especially because it really didn't work and she didn't pay a price for it, right? They basically just let her off and team back up with her.
I don't think she needed to, but I think she did the ultimate Roy. Like, she basically said, okay, I can't stand, if I can't win, I don't want them to win. A, if I can't have it, I don't want Roman or Kendall to have it. B, I could vote for Tom and just kind of go down that path and at least kind of win. And I think that's what really, kind of played into her mindset at the end.
Yeah, and let's just kind of talk about the Tom and Mattson of it all. I don't know that anybody necessarily had, Mattson gets the deal to go through with Tom as CEO on their bingo card at the beginning of season 4. But the more we talked about it, the more it makes sense. Tom part, I think we're okay with, right?
I'm okay with it. It's not what my heart wanted, but I think it works.
Your heart wanted Kendall, I'm assuming. Who does your head think would have been the right move?
What they did.
It's probably close. I would think it's probably, if it's just going to be a pure puppet, I think Tom is the move. If they wanted someone that's like a little puppet but has a little bit life, then probably one of the old heads, probably Jerry or Frank would make the most sense ultimately at the end of the day, even if they're just a placeholder.
Though I do think they could have made it spin with Shiv too. I think she could have potentially done it, but I think Ken had it, man. When Ken's on, dude, Ken's on. Like, he can do it, man. He can do the thing when he wants to.
I can be whatever you want me to be, champ. I'll make your dreams come true.
Oh, he can. Should make it do a turn. Do a spin. There you go. Make it sexy. Let's go.
He got those moments in season 4. We haven't really touched on the funeral, but that scene with Roman was crazy. And I did love all of Logan's old, his lady sitting up front, all the imagery and that was there. But when Roman breaks down.
Is he in there?
Yeah.
Can we get him out?
That was amazing. And then Kendall comes in, give that speech. A shout out Ewan. I thought all of that was really well done. And Living Plus, that was definitely the highlight of that episode, I think, when Kendall.
Yes.
He's got his prepared notes and he just throws them to the wind, right? And just kind of like.
He's got the jacket. And right before he goes out there, Roman caves and tells him he's not going to do it. Right. So he's got to battle through that. And he still goes out there. And that's when I think he realized, Kendall Roy, myself, can do this and be the guy. He almost needed Roman to like flake out on him so he could do that. I want to go back to Mattson. Like, we didn't touch on him a ton here. He won. Do you think he paid off his character? Do you think they did enough with him? I'll always see that character as Eric the Vampire from True Blood. I'm sorry, Alexander Skarsgård. Like, that's how I see you. So every time you're like lurking around, I see you as like, Suc10. That's how I see you. So to me, it's weird to see him in this, but do you think it was good? Like, are you happy with Mattson?
Yeah, I think he did a good job. He's kind of, they're giving him a cross of both some fictional stuff and some real life stuff, leading into like a little bit of the Elon Musk and that kind of thing. And I like how he plays it, that you don't know if he's really that smart or not. Like sometimes he seems really aloof and he likes the drugs and partying and everything, but he also seems he won. He got away with the subscriber numbers things. It kind of gives you the idea that maybe he is a little bit like Kendall, but maybe he's got a little bit of the goods to back it up too. Something like that. And as far as typecasting, I get what you're saying. Never saw True Blood, so I didn't have that problem here. But I did have a problem in I think it was the third Pierce Brosnan James Bond, where Denise Richards plays a nuclear scientist, because to me she was still the chick from Wild Things.
The pool scene, that's all we got to say. That pool scene in Wild Things was the heat. Shit, dude, I guess we got to talk about the election, right? I mean, that was a crazy episode, was it not? I mean, that's way up there for me. We really don't know how that turned out. Like, maybe Mencken was the winner, but one thing I love that we got, though, is we got the influence of what ATN and that family could do. And I think that's what they needed to deliver, and they were kind of showing it all along, from all the political shit that wrapped itself into the show, and they delivered that for me at the end with the election episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed the election episode, and I like at the end of the day, I think it was pretty true to life that Mencken does all this. You got a deal, Roman, you're my boy. And then as soon as it's expedient for him to do so, he's got an advantage to it. He stabs him right in the fucking back. Zero hesitation, just like Logan Roy would have done it, I'm assuming. You could have maybe said, oh, it's a little, sudden or out of left field, but I think it was definitely on par for the dude who, as far as Mencken was presented, and overall, generally, what we know of politicians these days.
Ain't that the truth? Well, shit, man, let's lighten things up just a bit here. Math is always fun, right? I mean, Mills, you are the mathematician. Go ahead and hit us with some numbers.
I got all numbers.
Let's do some rankings. Those are my favorite kind of numbers. We'll start with the openers and the finishers. We need closers. So what we've done is we've ranked the 4 season premieres and the 4 season finales. We'll start with the season premieres. At the bottom, number 4, we have Celebration, the season 1 premiere. At number 3, we have the Summer Palace, the season 2 premiere. At number 2, we have the Munsters, the season 4 premiere. And at number 1, we have Secession, the season 3 premiere. We were pretty close on most of these. I was higher on season 3 than you were as far as the premieres. I did love that. Just, again, how it picks right back up after 2, and you got Logan doing all the management in the car and everybody and trying to get the lawyers, all that kind of thing. Very good. And I should note that we were definitely the lowest on Celebration by far. So kind of interesting that the pilot's at the very bottom, I guess.
Not necessarily that the pilot was bad, because it wasn't at all. It's just the other ones were just like, the bar got set really high here, man. As the show went on, it just started becoming better and better and better and better.
Yeah, and we definitely had kind of season 3 and season 4 premieres on their own tier, with 2 being kind of in the middle and then 1 being down a fair bit. But again, not bad or anything. I don't think there's ever been a bad episode of Succession. That brings us to the season finales. At the bottom, surprisingly, is With Open Eyes, the season 4 finale, the series finale.
It surprised me, but as I was doing this, I realized that's my number 4. It's hard, right? But it is. Like,
the one thing I could say is I know we could say without even hesitating, it's not the best episode in its own season. Whereas this kind of gets into like, an NBA MVP who's never won the finals, or some guy who's finals MVP, but he never made an all-star team or something. Like, how do you kind of, judge apples to oranges?
And it's probably a victim of its own success, because it's in a season with, Connor's wedding, America Decides, the election. I mean, there's a lot of really good shit episode wise. So I think it's a little bit of it's a victim of its own success of the season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And at 3, we have Nobody's Ever Missing. That's the season 1 finale, although I will say that was definitely my favorite episode of that season. At 2, we have the season 2 finale. This is not 4 tiers. And at number 1, we have All the Bells Say. That is the season 3 finale. We were both extremely high on the season 3 and season 2 finales.
Yeah.
Also quite varied. These were all really close. I mean, these are all like A plus episodes of television, so there's not much separating all of them.
We should point out we were in the high nines on basically all these. I mean, all these were 9++ episodes. So
Right, yeah.
we're
So
talking grade
A
A
plus,
here.
yeah. That's that was the good stuff, man. You can honestly say that Succession, whatever order you want to rank them in, for their hit rate on season finales is about as high as any show I can think of, because at bare minimum they're 4 for 4.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to go 5 for 5, right? You got to go at least 5 for 5 to even be in the conversation to be better.
Man, that's a perfect segue, because you know what? Let's stick with the rankings. I want to get into our character discussion, and I think doing our character rankings is a good way to get that done, buddy.
To make this easier, we kind of broke the characters up into 2 groups. You have the characters who appeared in at least 10 episodes, and then everybody else. We're going to start with the characters who appeared in less than 10 episodes. Not really a ton of criteria here. We just more or less picked our favorites. At number 10, we have Sid. At number 9, we have Oscar. At number 8, we have Lawrence Yee. At number 7, Ron Peckus. Shout out Stephen Root. At number 6, we have Naomi Pierce. At number 5, we have Peter Munyon, who is actually like a big time CEO, but you wouldn't know it by the way he acts. At number 4, we have Nan Pierce, despite her only appearing in 3 episodes. At number 3, we have Ebba. She's getting paid someday, plus she's got a bunch of blood if she ever needs it. At number 2, we have Sandy with an I, Furness, played by Hope Davis, not the old Sandy, the young female Sandy. And at number 1, we have Ewan Roy, who I thought was great, extremely awesome, really killed it every time he was on screen. We both had him very high at him at 1. You had him at 2. A little bit of differentiation on Naomi. You had her at 1, Jamie G. Why was she your favorite?
Well, I think she played such a critical role in kind of that stretch where Ken was weird. And I really enjoyed kind of her and Ken. She gave some confidence and some hope that, like, hey, maybe Ken can like walk away from all this and not be what he thinks he's destined to be. I really enjoyed a lot of the scenes with her in it, to be candid.
Nothing wrong with that. And I think that's probably about the same logic we had for Nan Pierce, right? She was always I like the way she always acted like she was like the good, nice little lady, but then she had, a little bit of that Logan in her on the sly. I always thought that was really great. And, shout out Peter, who is my stealth MVP in the finale, if nothing else for his cheese. That man has some very special cheese. And they did a good job, obviously, with getting some supporting characters around Mattson, because we both had Oscar and Ebba here. Now, it's time for the big time, the overall edition of the Roy rankings. These are characters who appeared in at least 10 episodes. We got a clear top 8, so that's what we're going to go with. At number 8, our man Frank. At number 7, Jerry. At number 6, Kendall. At number 5, Shiv. At number 4, Tom. At number 3, Greg. At number 2, Roman. And number 1 with a bullet, number 1 for both of us, Logan Roy. I don't think that's surprising, nor am I surprised that you had K-Dog at 2.
He just slowly kind of became one of my favorite characters, if not at times my favorite character. All the Roy kids were great. Obviously I enjoyed Tom. Cousin Greg will always be there. And as, Kendall says, why is Greg here? Roman always finds himself asking himself the same question. It's amazing how well Greg did, considering where he starts episode 1.
Yeah, it's really a universal question, I think, that we all ask ourselves. I will point out I had Mattson at 4. You didn't put him anywhere near your top 10. Just not your guy. You still think of him as a True Blood dude. Can't get over it.
I do, and that's a me problem. So don't. I wasn't a big fan of Mattson. Like he had his moments, but for me,
privacy, pussy, pasta.
I mean, that was his best quote. But outside of that, he just didn't do much for me. I think he just. And it was probably the point, but I don't know, man. He didn't pay off for me as the character I wanted.
Fair enough. And I'll point out that I was also a lot higher on Hugo. I had him at 8. Shout out Fisher Stevens. I love him and everything he does. He's always awesome. He got per capita, I think he got the most laughs. I'm not saying he was the most confident or anything, but almost anytime he was on screen, he just kind of had that weird energy, a little bit kind of nervousness, and it always paid off for me. So shout out Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo's great. I definitely enjoy Hugo. And even at the end, man, woof woof, baby. I mean, he was happy with those scraps.
Killing it.
Let's move into our character discussion. Let's start with any supporting characters that we want to highlight, especially ones that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, I definitely think we should probably at least mention Rava and the kids. I did like when Kendall was making his move, how he set up shop in Rava's apartment for an episode or two. I did enjoy that, how she was just kind of really annoyed with him all the time. You know, we didn't really get a ton of development from the kids. It was fine.
Her relationship with Rava was kind of a big deal. I mean, let's not forget they banged in like one episode early on where for a minute it looked like maybe they were getting back together. Like people forget, like they actually had like a hot and heavy moment where they banged. Like that was so much happens in the show where you kind of forget about that. But I think it definitely important to mention her. And I thought Rava did a great job kind of separating, like, you are not a normal person. Your family's fucked. I cannot raise my kids or be in this toxic environment. And she was right. You know, as much as I love Ken Dog, she was right.
Yeah, definitely. Really haven't probably said too much about, like, I guess we mentioned Marcia, Caroline. Probably haven't said anything about Carrie. Any thoughts on the women of Logan Roy at all?
Just that I really enjoyed the funeral scene where, you know, Caroline, the ex-wife, came and she, like, this was my Carrie, and introduces Marcia to the woman that Logan was cheating on her with. And so I kind of enjoyed that they all kind of came together. And I give Marcia a lot of credit because at the end she put her hand on top of Carrie's hand, and that was kind of like a I don't know, man, that took a lot of stones to do that. So I enjoyed them all kind of coming together. The Carrie relationship was really weird. Remember that one episode where they were like, he was like, what was he? He was eating like some berry or some shit that made him more fertile. And everyone was convinced he was trying to get Carrie pregnant so he could just screw over all the kids and just give it to whoever the new kid is. Like, you know, it just, it was a weird thing, but, you know.
Yeah, her trying out like her audition tape that everybody was sending around the company and making fun of.
That was funny. I did appreciate that. And how Logan had to play that was hilarious too.
Yeah, let's see who else haven't we mentioned. Jess. Shout out Jess. She was always fun. She definitely could get a better job, 100%. And then he just replaced her with new Jess.
Yeah.
Didn't even get a name, so just shout out new Jess, whoever you were.
You know, we talked about Rhea Gerald just a little bit, but, you know, that was kind of an interesting play, how that shakes itself together. And then I guess just Stewie and Sandy, they're kind of jumping out here. They played a pretty significant role. Like Stewie found himself like with Hand multiple times throughout the series, so that's pretty impressive.
They were basically the board member version of Frank. They were just really good at that, like putting their thumb in the air and figuring out which way the wind was blowing. So even had the great quote about how no matter what, I'm just going to be on whatever side is going to win. Definitely held true to that. And Connor and Willa, we have not said a lot about them. I guess Connor was always kind of the lesser child, whether that's cool to say or not. It was just dealt that way. I did really love Willa. She is definitely one of the biggest winners of the entire show, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, dude, she gets Logan's, what does he have, a triplex or something, like ridiculous house in Manhattan. She gets that for $55 million that she didn't have to pay for. She gets to stay there, redo it, go back into her acting shit while Connor has to go to Slovenia. Yeah, I'd say she made out okay for being she was a call girl when this thing started. I mean, she was literally an escort to that. Yeah, I'd say she's doing okay.
Yeah, literally had to get married on the day that Logan died.
Yep.
Give Connor credit. He was right. If they hadn't got married that day, they probably wouldn't have.
That's probably true. And I guess this is as good a time as any to mention some interviews with the cast that have recently come out. Mills, man the news desk for a minute, will you?
Yeah, we had a Kieran Culkin appearance on a podcast, and apparently he hadn't even seen the finale, so he started asking about the scene where they fight during the board meeting when they go kind of into that side conference room, and apparently they shot a bunch of different takes of that. where they were actually really physically fighting a lot more. And originally, Shiv was supposed to be kind of involved in that, but they couldn't pull it off because Sarah Stuck is pregnant in real life, so there are limitations there. And they usually don't like to act to rehearse this, especially Kieran Culkin and Jeremy Strong. So they actually did rehearsals for this and everything they said. But are you cool with it the way it went down, or would you have liked to see them get a little more physical?
Tense when he like grabs him and like freaking squeezes his skull. Like I thought that was fine. I didn't need anything more than that.
I agree. I think it would have been a little bit over the top, especially considering it's all these glass walls and everyone could see and everything. I think that might have just been a bridge too far.
Totally agree.
And the other thing was, Jeremy Strong, we've talked about it. He is very famously a method actor, gets himself in the head of his character. And in that final scene, apparently, he just thought that at that moment, Kendall wanted to die. So he actually tried to like walk up to the railing, and Jeremy Strong said he didn't know actually, like he was just, following the character or whatever. But I guess theoretically he might have jumped in if they hadn't restrained him. And even though there's like no divers or safety or whatever. So we both thought that was maybe what was going through Kendall's mind. So kind of any feelings on his, the actor, at least more or less confirming that that's what he thought Kendall's state of mind was.
Well, first of all, he portrayed it perfectly. Jeremy Strong deserves so much credit for how he played Kendall, dude. Like I don't, method acting, whatever it is, he absolutely crushed. And I think that's why I'm such a huge Kendall fan, is because for better or worse, man, he did a great job showing us who Ken is, and that's cool. He's a complex character too. Let's be real. So I think this just perfectly exemplifies that.
I will co-sign with that 100%.
I think I know how this is going to turn out here, but let's do the damn thing anyway. It's time to rank the seasons of Succession. Even I can do this math because there's 4 seasons of Succession, and I'm Jamie G. Esquire the 5th. So I'm already ahead there. And we rank them from 1 to 4. Magnum Mills, take us away.
Yeah, what you don't know is he's Jamie G. Esquire the 5th because he can only count to 5 because that's how many digits he has on their hands. But thankfully, he's got all the digits. It's always good to have. At number 4, no real surprise here, we have season 1. And what I found to be a pretty big surprise is that we have season 4 at number 3, season 2 at number 2, and season 3 at number 1. However, I will say, when we average these out, our number 1 season averaged to a 9.55. Our number 3 season averaged to a 9.45. So more or less, we have seasons 2, 3, and 4 in the same top tier, in season 1 basically being in its own tier. I think that's really the way to do it. I don't know that there's an appreciable difference. I guess I will say that you were a bit higher. Like I had season 2 as my 3rd favorite. You had it as your favorite. Any reason 2 was your favorite?
3 was outstanding, and we're splitting hairs here, but I think 2 just had some moments in there that were bigger, even though maybe 3 as a whole was better. 2 had these big, bold moments that just really kind of set with me and just made me fall in love with the show on a whole new level. And so I kind of give it its due, and because of how good it was, I expected 3 to be great. So maybe 3 doesn't get the credit it does because of the groundwork 2 laid, and I think that's probably where that ranking came from for me. Those 3 seasons are just so good, and it is weird that season 4 fell, but again, we're talking by 0.05. I mean, like the pennies. We're talking about fractions of pennies.
Yeah, it's splitting hairs. For the record, IMDb, if you go by them, they have it ranked 1 at the bottom, then 2, then 3, then 4 up top. So basically in reverse chronological order, they had it just getting better every season, and it's hard to argue that it didn't.
Shit, man. While we're here, let's show a little love to the episodes themselves. We already hit on the premieres and the finales, and we both gave Connor's wedding, the episode where Logan dies, a perfect 10 out of 10. So that's clearly our favorite. Go ahead, buddy. Let's each give our top 3 episodes that aren't a premiere or aren't a finale and aren't Connor's wedding.
I am going to give you 3, but I don't know if they're necessarily in this order. I got it down to 3. That was hard enough. I have America Decides, that's season 4, episode 8. DC, that's season 2, episode 9. And Too Much Birthday. That's season 3, episode 7. Basically, the election episode, the congressional testimony episode, and Kendall's birthday. So, Jamie G, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to go. America Decides. I think the election episode was just way up there. I really liked Which Side Are You On? Season 1, episode 6. We talked about that a little bit earlier, where you've got they're trying to get a no vote, and Kendall's stuck in the car, can't get there. That whole drama played out. I really enjoyed that. And then I'm also with you on Too Much Birthday. Ken's birthday was absolutely awesome. That was a great episode. That eked its way in there for me as well.
That's what she said.
It's time for the pros. Mills, when it comes to Succession, which would you like to see the most? A prequel, a reboot, or a sequel?
Technically, I would take a Disgusting Brothers animated series. I don't really care if it's a proper sequel or a spinoff, whatever you want to call it. And I would definitely be interested in a prequel about Logan Roy. I think that would be really interesting, kind of him coming up, building his empire, that kind of thing. I think that would be, if we're going to do a kind of proper, like, a Better Call Saul type of scenario or something like that, that's what I would want. How about yourself?
Dude, you're telling me Roystar Logan in the 80s with all the cocaine and the crazy shit that could go on in the workplace. You're telling me that wouldn't be amazing as he rose to power and just like had the world in his oyster before social media and shit, when you could like get away with crazy stuff? Like, yeah, that would be a lot of fun to see. I also wouldn't mind seeing a movie sequel, kind of like just show us, where things are maybe 5 years from now. I think that could be a lot of fun. Shows have struggled with that. Obviously, Sex
like
and
El
the City.
Camino or Deadwood.
Yeah, you've kind of seen that with some, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And I understand
Firefly.
the hesitation, but I think it would be fun to do it.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Yes, we would. And we always talk about what a crazy family the Roys are, and what a great cast of character this is, right? So let's have a little fun. If you could cast the Succession characters onto another show, who would they be?
Oh man, I've been waiting to do this one for a minute because I wrote this back in the early part of season 4, but I would like to do a little crossover with Arrested Development here and cast some of the Succession members over there as part of the Bluth family, maybe a little bit of the extended Bluth family. I would make Shiv, she would be Michael Bluth. Cousin Greg would be George Michael. Tom would be Lindsay Bluth. Roman would be Job. Kendall would be Tobias. There might be a little bit of the controversy with that one. Jerry would be maybe. Connor would be Buster. Connor is definitely Buster, 100%. Frank would be George Sr. That one's a little tough, but I had to go there so I could make Lucille Bluth, Logan Roy. They're definitely the heads of the family. And just for a bonus, give me Mattson as Barry Zuckerhorn, the lawyer played by Henry Winkler. Jamie G cast Succession as somebody else for me.
That's great. Well, in honor of something we just did over on our other podcast, Regular Dudes Watch Stuff, we just broke down an episode of Trailer Park Boys. So I'm gonna cast Succession as the Trailer Park Boys. So give me Ricky. I gotta give Ricky Connor. They both kind of got that awkward, funny energy. I think that could be really cool. Julian has to be K-Dog. That's Kendall. Sarah is going to be Shiv. She's kind of the boss lady for the young women in the world there. Lucy is definitely got to be Willa, 100%. It works out that Ricky's Connor. And then Bubbles is Roman all the way. And Logan, well, Logan's going to be the guy in the chair. Give me Ray. And then Jim Leahy will be Tom. And then Randy Bobandy will be Cousin Greg. We love the dialogue on Succession. It's probably our favorite part of the show, if not is our favorite part of the show. The problem is we like it so much that ranking all the quotes is basically impossible. Yes, we're insane, and we went through and raked a bunch of these, but Mills, I got confused. I started seeing sideways. I can only count to 5. How many are we going to deal with here?
It says the guy who only had to take place in the final ranking and not the culling. Started out with about 300, got that down to 100, then went in hard, got it down to 50. Rank those. So now we're going to give you our absolute favorites. And it looks like we've got more or less a clear top 15 here. So we're just going to move through these bang, bang. In a tie for 15 from season 4, episode 4, Honeymoon States, we have Carl.
You're a clumsy interloper and no one trusts you. The only guy pulling for you is dead. And now you're just married to the ex-boss's daughter and she doesn't even like you. And you are fair and squarely fucked.
Tied for 15th, we have a quote from season 2, episode 10. This is not for tears. And Kendall's asking the question we asked earlier.
Could be anybody. I mean, why is Greg here?
I always ask that question.
At 14 from season 1, episode 6, which side are you on?
Can I count on your vote for Team Future?
I can promise you that I am spiritually and emotionally and ethically and morally behind whoever wins.
At number 13 from season 2, episode 3, Hunting, we have Logan Roy.
This was supposed to be choreographed. That's about as choreographed as a dog getting fucked on roller skates.
At number 12 from season 4, episode 2, Rehearsal, we have Cousin Greg talking about Logan.
It's like Jaws. If everyone in Jaws worked for Jaws.
At number 11 from season 1, episode 5.
What's your plan?
Ever hear of loyalty?
Sure. Wasn't he one of the 7 dwarfs?
Oh boy.
No? He's a rapper. He was in Wu-Tang?
At number 10 from season 3, episode 7, Too Much Birthday, we agree it's our favorite Lucas Madsen quote.
Privacy, pussy, pasta.
Also, Tiger Woods' mantra through the mid-2000s. At number 9 from the pilot, season 1, episode 1, Celebration.
I know that you've read a lot of books about business management and this and that, but you know what?
What?
Sometimes it is a big dick competition.
Then we have a 3-way tie at number 6. First up is from season 4, episode 1, The Munsters.
Congratulations on saying the biggest number, you fucking morons.
Also tied at number 6 from season 2, episode 5, Turnhaven.
Would you like to hear my favorite passage from Shakespeare? Take the fucking money.
And at number 6 from season 1, episode 5, I Went to Market. You have to have speakerphone etiquette.
I'm in Canada.
Excuse me? Canada? Canada with the healthcare and the ennui? Why is that, cocksock?
I'm driving my grandpa down for Thanksgiving.
Oh, Greg, fuck your grandpa.
Okay, you're on speakerphone, Tom.
Well, I shouldn't be, Greg.
On to our top 5 from season 2, episode 1, Summer Palace.
Well, sue me. Good luck.
Sure.
My lawyer used to work for the Justice Department. Who's your lawyer? Mr. fucking Magoo?
At number 4 from season 4, episode 8, America Decides. Tom likes himself some information.
Information. No guarantee. Greg, it's like a bottle of fine wine. You store it, you hoard it, you save it for a special occasion, and then you smash someone's fucking face in with it.
At number 3 from season 1, episode 8.
Okay. So does that mean we were able to fuck here?
Yeah, hey, Ken, what do you think of the Pussycat? Want it?
No, not me. Business is my fucking.
Great, I'll find you a Bloomberg terminal to stick your dick in.
At number 2 from season 2, episode 9, DC.
You can't make a Tomlet without breaking some Gregs. You sent the same email to him 67 times in one evening.
I guess it was a joke.
Right. I wonder, do the phrases human furniture or footstooling mean anything to you?
Not that I'm conscious of.
And at number 1 from the series finale, season 4, episode 10, With Open Eyes, Kendall Roy uttering the immortal words.
Cunt is as cunt does.
Any thoughts on those, Jamie G? Any surprises? We got a pretty good distribution throughout the seasons. Maybe season 3 was a little bit underrepresented, but that's about it.
Look, man, this is such a massive undertaking. And honestly, I've said this a lot. This is probably the hardest show for ranking our quotes. I mean, Barry was very hard. This is very, very, very hard.
We could do a 50-episode podcast breaking down our favorite quotes. Start at 500, do 10 per, and just do 50 episodes of it. Legitimately, that's how many there are.
Yeah, and they're just all great. So, man, I'll tell you what, I think we could just keep going and going and going. But The show's got to end at some point. However, before we sign off, let's just talk about what Succession meant to us and where it sits among our favorite shows of all time.
I do have to say, I think it was an important show for HBO. They had kind of struggled, other than Game of Thrones for a while. You had some kind of partial hits like True Detective, but it seemed like they were really looking for something. And even though Succession never really caught fire from a rating standpoint, it's one of those things, if you get somebody into it, the hit rate is very high. They will wind up liking it. They will complete the series. I think it will bring people to HBO as time goes on. It really kind of, upheld the standards they've always had, and most importantly, got better as it went along, stuck the landing really. You can't have anybody really complaining, about a cop out, anything like that. So I think it did what it had to do, and I really enjoyed it, even though it took a minute to get into for me personally. Glad I made that journey, and I'm certainly going to, rewatch it again at some point. Maybe not, necessarily right now, but not too long from now.
How would you rank it in your amongst your? I mean, does it crack your top 10, Magnum Mouse?
Without drawing it out, I don't know, but I would say it's no lower than like tier 2. It's somewhere probably in that, and I don't even know what's tier 1 anymore. You have to kind of reevaluate. I think Succession is going to grade, like if you did it numerically, I think they would grade very high again, because they only ran for 39 episodes. They were all, I don't think there's a single dud in there, especially good with, series premieres, season finales, that kind of thing. So, definitely in my top 12, if I had to guess, probably no worse than top 15, I would say. And I'm not sure how big the tiers are. It's one of the things, it fluctuates, man, especially with shows that are still ongoing.
I'm in that same range. I couldn't agree more. I probably higher on this show than most. I may, it probably will find its way into my top 10. That's a big list. There's so much stuff out there. There's so much content, but I love this show, man. I just think it's really complete. It's super good. It's concise. I give them credit. Not a lot of shows kind of don't take the bait and stretch it out 5, 6, 7 seasons. They could have here. They didn't.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty clear 5. Let's just all right, we're about to get out of here, but just real quick, rapid fire: Succession or Barry?
Succession.
Succession or The Sopranos?
Sopranos.
Succession or True Detective?
Succession.
Succession or True Blood?
Succession. But True Blood was longer and very, very, very good. But Succession for 4. True Detective season 1 is probably better than Succession, but you got to grade it as a series, so it's not. So it's kind of tough, but yeah, this one's way up there for me.
So
man.
it's in your top, even 3 HBO division, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, there's some other shit in there. Obviously, Hot D, Game of Thrones is way up there. I mean, so
Deadwood, The Wire, yeah.
Deadwood, The Wire, yeah. I mean, there's a lot there, but I mean, shit. Deadwood was only what, 3 seasons?
3 seasons in a movie,
and we got kind of robbed on that. It's good. We'll leave it there. I think that just about does it. Sincere thank you to all the listeners and watchers out there. This has been so much fun to do Suc10 this last season of the show. Every week I enjoyed it, and we enjoyed getting the feedback from you guys. Thank you guys for being with us on this journey.
100%. And we're doing this, both because we enjoy talking with each other about shows and everything, but just to get, hopefully more people to watch Succession and to interact about these shows. And in this day and age, especially as more and more people get their stuff from different sources, it's hard to get people on the same page. There's a lot of, Game of Thrones was kind of the last maybe community show we'll ever have where you get that big of an audience all watching it together at once. I really enjoyed the fact that the Succession audience kept, growing over time. I'm expecting that more people will continue to find the show. There might be people who are listening to or watching this in like 2028 or something, and that's kind of wild. Like I hope I'm still alive in 2028. That seems like an infinite time away, and it seems like just yesterday Succession started, and especially season 4, that thing went by crazy, especially considering they did a new thing where they drop 3 episodes on the opening night or some bullshit like that. So yeah, just thank you for sticking with us. If you've enjoyed anything in particular, or if we did something that you really didn't like, let us know. It's the only way we're going to improve. If you'd like to check out some of our other stuff, that would be great. If you enjoyed kind of our tone here, it carries over into most other things. And, overall, I just have to say, just shout out the everybody that worked on Succession. Incredibly well written, well acted. Enjoyed every single part of it. The music, especially, that's probably one thing we didn't give a shout out to. Is this is way up there as far as all the musical accompaniment, the theme, the intro, everything like that. Just 100% outstanding. So thank you for watching, and thank you all the people, even the behind the scenes people, the down to the fucking caterers, everybody who made Succession. Thank you.
Yeah, good call, dude. The we didn't talk about it, but that opening is like
and Nicholas Bertel just absolutely slay. Like everything is just even the
so good.
Go on Spotify and listen to Kendall Roy's the Logan Roy rap. It's there. It's on Spotify. It's on the season 2 soundtrack.
Guys, I think that's a wrap on Suc10. There's a chance that we might circle back to cover the episodes from the first 3 seasons at some point, but it wouldn't be for some time. So we hope that you enjoyed Suc10. If you did, you'll probably enjoy some of our other content. Make sure you check it out. Mills will tell you everywhere that you can find it.
On the YouTube, wherever you get your pods, easiest way, just search for Regular Dudes Watch Stuff on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. You can also go to JoeBlowFootballShow.com. Brings you right to our YouTube channel. That's basically it. Don't forget those flaps. You do sometimes, but follow, like, and please subscribe. Again, if you had fun, give us that thumb. Really helps us out. We greatly appreciate it. That's it. I sad to say, on behalf of myself, Magnum Mills, Jamie G, the real Disgusting Brothers, the only Disgusting Brothers still making new content. I'm maybe because of Greg has an OnlyFans. I don't know, but we're what you got. Thank you, and remember, can't make a Tomlin without breaking some graves.
Well, these hands aren't going to fuck themselves, so
you gotta get those new mechanical hands for that.
Go get some Greglets.
Paid all his dues, so don't try to run your mouth at the king. Just pucker up, bitch, and go kiss the ring. L to the OG, dude be the OG, and he playing like a